Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life. Yes, it's another button session. And today what I'm going to cover are a few things. One, how to begin easily and really inexpensively finding buttons, as well as for those who are established in the button world. This will be helpful for you as well, because the price of buttons has gone up exponentially. And if you hear my chair creaking, please forgive me. But yes, this is like one of my inside secrets that I've been doing and using ever since, honestly, I believe I was probably a teenager. The other thing I'm going to talk about is what these buttons are. So not only can you find buttons inexpensively and easily, you can also, of course, use this video as one of my many others, which I will attach a link right up here in this corner for you to check out with all of my button videos to help you find out or sort of try to identify what you have. I am not the end all or be all of the button world, but I figured this is a great beginning for people who really want to get into this. So what I did recently is I have gone through, and it's not finished yet, you will get my after video and tour coming up soon, is I went through my dressing room, and I didn't go through every single bin, every single drawer, but I did go through the majority of them. And of course, all of my clothes that I had hanging up, and I started weeding out things that I just know I will never, ever, ever wear again, either because of fit, because they're either too small or too large, or just it's not a style that I'm ever going to revisit as far as I can tell. Never say never in fashion, as you guys all know. But I'm pretty sure I'll never revisit these things. And if I ever did, then I'm okay buying them in a better fit and maybe even a different style or color. So one of the things that I do is we donate a lot to big brothers, big sisters. So if you have a big brothers, big sisters chapter in your state, town, whatever, then please contact them about how you can donate household goods, clothing, that kind of stuff. Of course, any financial funds to them. It's a great thing for kids, and we strongly, strongly support them. So I go through and I look to see what I'm going to donate, what I'm going to throw away, and I also do something called mining. So no, I'm not mining for gold or silver, but okay, gold, golden bits of buttons and silver bits of buttons. But yes, but when I'm doing my mining, it's also to find like fabric, because I will recycle fabric and use it to make something else. And what I do when I do that is I actually cut out the parts of the garment I know I can't use. And that way I'm just left with a bit of fabric, which I could put into one of my fabric bins. So I'm not just like storing another jacket or another shirt. But in that process, I also look at these little nuggets here, buttons, and I decide which buttons I am going to recover and which ones can just go. And in this particular process for this time of going through the dressing room, these are some of the buttons, and there's maybe another, I'm going to say 20, I'll even say 15 to 20 of them that I didn't think were as interesting. That's why they're not in this video. But these are the ones that I decided to recover. So what I have are really a variety of buttons. And if I hadn't cut these off of the clothes, then those items probably are items that I would have either thrown away or, of course, maybe I would have donated. But I know that I'm going to use the material, so I figured, obviously, you might as well recover the buttons as well. So what we have are some of what I call these plastic coated they're like plastic buttons, but they're coated with metal. And in the middle, it has like this really nice cabochon. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. And I believe I have 2 in the other pile as well. So these I know I can use for several projects. And, you know, some people ask me what projects. You will have to wait and find out in the future. And here is a metal button with a crest. I have no idea what I'm going to do with all the buttons I have that have crest on them. Most of these are definitely just via a fashion house, or it's just a generic button with a crest on it. Nothing special. But something that I do like are these little silver buttons. And they have like the pin back shank on them. These are older buttons from something that I actually bought a long time ago to mine the material from. And I never did, but now I did it. And you could see that nice little fine shank on it. I love those types of shanks. And there were a few glass buttons. I feel like I might have some that are in this design already. I'm not sure, maybe not. But these are some large glass buttons, very hardy. And then this is a lucite button. And what I like about these is the fact that they are clear, and I can actually put something else underneath or on top of it to showcase it more. And someone asked me, what is the difference between how can I tell what's plastic, which is what lucite is, the type of plastic, versus what is glass, which is exactly what this is. There's a couple ways. One, you could take your glass or the button that you're questioning, tap it on another piece of glass, like a glass that you would drink from or a jar, and also take a plastic button or one that you might suspect is plastic and do the same. You will hear a clear difference in sound. Another thing that you can do, which obviously I have great teeth, thankfully, but if your teeth are a little bit sketchy, you might not want to do this. But you can take, just like you can do with a pearl, you could take the button and tap it on your tooth lightly, and you will be able to hear the difference, feel the difference. Another thing is if you hold a glass button in your hand, immediately it's cold to the touch. It does warm up, of course. And if you do the same with a button, it's just at room temperature. It's not cool or cold to the touch. So buttons that are glass are always immediately, unless you had them in the sunshine, cool to the touch. And of course your plastic buttons, if they're at room temperature, they don't have any coolness to them at all. So there's a couple ways that you can tell. Another, and this is like one that is not my favorite, is if you see a chip in your glass button, that'll be an immediate giveaway because you know what chipped glass looks like, versus if there's damage to a plastic button, it doesn't chip away. It just might get dented a little or have like a little scratch on it like this one does. Here's another little glass button. I just love the clean lines of this one. So I decided to take that one off as well. And this is actually inside of a jack. So that's the other thing. When you're mining for buttons, look in the inside, because sometimes, especially in the older clothes, the extra button is sewn into the inside of the garment versus being put into one of those little envelopes as they did in the 80s on up to today. So I would have missed 2 of these if I did not do that. So these buttons are my absolute favorite that I mined. I mean, just look at the design and the weight of them. I think they're made of pewter. And you can test to see if you have pewter by sort of drawing it across a piece of paper. Also, I mean, once you touched enough pewter, you usually know that that is what it is. These are really not the best type of buttons for clothes, but these were on a jacket, which kind of makes sense. It's something that you're not going to run through a wash often. Plus, that jacket said that it was dry clean only. so the dry cleaner would know how to deal with pewter buttons. Another button, oh, these, I already have a couple of these. They're made of horn, and it's actually, I purchased, I want to say 2 or 3 of the same jacket, just different colors. And there was a color I purchased when I looked at it in my dressing room recently. I was like, I just don't know why I purchased this color. But I did recover some of the buttons from that because I will use them. This is a pearlized button. That's what it's called. It's pearlized. It looks, you know, it's faux. It's not a real pearl at all. But I do love this. I like the size of the button. Plus, I know that this is something I can use in several different sewing projects. I have these nice big blue buttons, which are made of, they're just plastic. I don't know why I recovered this wooden button because honestly, it's not my bag. I don't really like it. But I did because probably I was like, I'm doing the others. And then here is a really pretty button. And I have several of these in my other pile. And this one is plastic as well. I know it looks glass, but it's not glass. It's plastic. There were several mother of pearl buttons of different sizes, different styles. This button might get confused for mother of pearl, but this is actually a glass button. I don't know if you can get a good visual focus. Let's see if we can focus. That's probably as good as it's going to get. One of my favorite movies, Jack Nicholson, and oh, I can see the actress in it, but I don't remember her name. But so there you go. You have that one. And what else do I have here that I could show you that I think is interesting? Oh, this one. It's a lucite type button, and then it has this metal insert on it. And here's another. This is a Gatling. Same family as Catalan. Actually, you can see it better, the white background. And I love that carving in it. Really nice. And this is probably a pre-war or war era button, like 1930s. And, oh, just because it's purple. That's the only reason I recovered this one. And yeah, so when I'm mining for buttons, one of the things that I do is, of course, go through what you have in your wardrobe, your family has. If, you know, the coat closet in your house, no one's gone through it in a long time to get rid of coats that no one is ever going to wear again. That's also a good place for you to look. But so these are some great beginner ways to start your own collection. Another thing, and this is, hopefully you stayed with me for this video because this is really key, is you want to go to thrift shops where the clothes are really cheap. So, but you also want to go where, I hate to say this, but the homes are a little bit older. Like it has an older there you go, lion's face. It has an older population. You want to go to thrift shops in those neighborhoods because they're going to have older clothes that will have better buttons on them. And the styles will probably be, you know, something that the modern day person isn't looking for. Retro vintage vibers will be looking for them. So that will be your competition, if you will. But if you do find, you know, a thrift shop like that, they have jackets. They're usually $1, $2, maybe $3 max. And I'm just going to use jackets. It could be dresses, shirts, etc., vest, and the list goes on. What you want to do is, if you're not there to shop for the clothing, which I don't shop for the clothing necessarily, what I'm shopping for are the buttons. So what I will do is look at the buttons on the garment, or if I'm looking for a particular piece of vintage fabric, look at that and decide whether or not to buy that item for the $1, $2, or $3. Now, the clothing item is probably worth more than $1, $2, $3, but because it's a thrift shop, that's what they're charging. And obviously, those that collect buttons know that sometimes the buttons can be worth much more than the garment is. So if you are, looking for buttons, it's a great way to do it very inexpensively versus overspending on buttons that are being sold online. Or buying poor quality buttons online, hoping that that bundle of buttons that you purchased had something great in it, and then you're disappointed when you get the buttons in the mail, and the only good thing were the 2 or 3 buttons that they baited you with on top. So that is one of the things that I like to do. Another is if you are going to tag sales, flea markets, especially if the clothes are hung up. I don't really like going through piles of things thrown on the ground. But if the clothes are hung up and you look at the prices and they're super low and reasonable, once again, another great way for you to find buttons. And the reason why, another reason to think about is another reason why it's a great way to find and mine for buttons and materials is because it does not matter what size the item is. So if the item is too large or too small, or maybe it would fit you just right, it doesn't matter. That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is what you can mine from that garment. So what I do is, as I stated, I mine fabrics and I also mine for buttons. And that is how, even as a teenager, I was able to start collecting and ended up with some interesting buttons. Now, are other people out there going to be doing the same thing? Honestly, not really. Most of them are out there just to buy the actual garment. So just something to keep in mind when you're trying to start a collection of buttons, or even if you're trying to find a piece of amazing vintage material to use in a future or current sewing project. These are amazing ways to do it. So another caveat I will add to this is, of course, if you are trying to make a full dress, then mining for the material probably won't work unless you are going to simply redesign the dress, or the dress is so large that you have enough for seam allowances as well as to cut out your pattern. So when I'm talking about mining for materials, it's usually because I'm making bags or something else out of it. Hats, hello, hats. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to the Velvet Lounge Life. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you guys have what you do. I know some of you will not share, which is kind of sad. But what do you do so that you can inexpensively collect buttons and still enjoy the hobby? As well as let me know if you will try what I suggested, anything I suggested in this video. Mining for buttons, not just in your own closet, but will you now go look for them out in the wild, as we call it, or out in the world? So thank you so much for tuning in. Be well. Remember, your health is your wealth, and without your health, you have absolutely nothing.